If you awaken from this illusion, and you understand that black implies white, self implies other, life implies death, or shall I say, death implies life, you can feel yourself not as a stranger in the world, not as something here on probation, not as something that has arrived here by fluke, but you can begin to feel your own existence as absolutely fundamental. What you are basically, deep, deep down, far, far in, is simply the fabric and structure of existence itself.
When you discover yourself, it takes one day. And if my father, sat me down when I was 18, and said, hey son, I'm going to straight shoot you for a moment. I'm going to be honest with you. This may be a little awkward, but I'm going to straight shoot you right now. Who the fuck are you? If my dad just sat me down on my 18th birthday in the kitchen and just, this, I'm sorry if this offends you, but I'm going to be straightforward with you because I love you. Who the fuck are you? This isn't shit they teach in school. This is life shit, and you get one life. Life is so short, guys. And the reason suicidal rates are so high amongst teenagers, and it's, I think now around the world, outside of teenagers, it's on track to go from 40 seconds to 20 seconds, people are killing themselves. And it's because people are constantly having to escape the realities, because this midlife crisis, this whole idea of a midlife crisis starts at, this matrix or rat race. If you follow the process, maybe you're 3 promotions up, you're making 50, 75K. By the time you're, at the physical age of 30, and, you got 70 years left to live, and you for a decade, you have been suppressing and bullshitting yourself, having to, drink every fucking day, having to, escape until now suicidal rates have skyrocketed to this point where every 20 seconds somebody in the world is taking their life. Where it's about to catch up to how many people are being born if we continue at this rate. And the reason is because of exactly that. And that's the question you have to ask yourself. Who the fuck are you?
God's image? Well, that's where the creative faculty comes in. In our intellectual factors, you have perception, the will, reason, imagination, memory, intuition. Now, the subconscious mind is quite different from the conscious mind. That's what we call the emotional mind. See, the conscious mind can think, so therefore you have the ability to choose. You literally choose where you're going. Now, the choice may be unconscious, but it is a choice. You have the ability here to accept or reject information. When we see something come on the news about the economy's taking a dive, say maybe for them or you, but not for me. You've got the ability to reject information. Somebody starts to tell you a bad story, reject it. Now think. You have the ability to accept or reject in your conscious mind. You have the ability to originate ideas in your conscious mind. You can originate any idea you want. Now, your subconscious mind has no ability to reject. It must accept. And here's something else. Whatever's placed in the subconscious mind is going to dictate your world. It really will. And your imagination or your subconscious mind cannot differentiate between what you imagine and what's real. So if you imagine something happening and you get emotionally involved, it's actually starting to happen. You may say, well, that's ridiculous. Well, the Wright brothers didn't think so. Ed Hillary didn't think so. Steve Jobs didn't think so. Think about it. Thomas Edison didn't think so. Alexander Graham Bell. See, we listen to them and think, well, they're different. No, they're not different. They're exactly the same as you and me. Now look here for a moment. I've given you the basics about the mind. Now let's look at this. Today, you're being inundated with information in your conscious mind from radio, from other people, from TVs, from newspapers. And you have the ability, because you have a reasoning factor, you have the ability to think. And you can say, I don't want that information. I'm not accepting that. And you can cause it to go away. But you know something? We don't do that. Not only don't we not do that, we don't even think about it. We don't even think. Why? We leave our mind wide open. And it goes right in. What do we say about the subconscious? It has no ability to reject. It must accept. Why do we do that? Because we're programmed to do it. That's why we do it. That's our paradigm. How did that happen? How did it happen that we go around leaving our subconscious mind wide open? Because it's what's going on in the subconscious that dictates what you do.
Justin from YouAreCreators, and I want to discuss a concept that can change your life as it did mine. One of the most valuable concepts that I personally learned is that in order to reach the level of success, self-confidence, and prosperity that you want, you have to brainwash yourself. Yes, brainwash yourself. See, either way it goes, you're going to be brainwashed. But the question is, who's doing the brainwashing? Believe it or not, the world that we live in is always trying to brainwash you. They are trying to penetrate your subconscious mind. Florence Scovel Shinn once said, "If you do not run your subconscious mind yourself, someone else will run it for you." The media wants to brainwash you. Certain religions want to brainwash you. Advertising companies want to brainwash you. That's why they spend over $20 billion every year in marketing ads just to get inside of your subconscious mind. They know that once they become a part of your paradigm, your belief system, they have a slight level of control over your decision making. After years of research, psychologists have finally understood how the subconscious mind works and how to penetrate it at will. This is why controlling the masses isn't hard at all. Jim Morrison once said, "Whoever controls the media controls the mind." See, once you have control over someone's mind, you control what they create in their reality.
They say we only use a fraction of our brain's true potential. Now, that's when we're awake. When we're asleep, our mind can do almost anything.
Such as?
Well, imagine you're designing a building, right? You consciously create each aspect. But sometimes it feels like it's almost creating itself, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, like I'm discovering it.
Genuine inspiration, right? Now, in a dream, our mind continuously does this. We create and perceive our world simultaneously, and our mind does this so well that we don't even know what's happening. That allows us to get right in the middle of that process.
How?
By taking over the creating part. Now, this is where I need you. You create the world of the dream. We bring the subject into that dream, and they fill it with their subconscious.
How could I ever acquire enough detail to make them think that it's reality?
Well, dreams, they feel real while we're in them, right? It's only when we wake up that we realize something was actually strange. Let me ask you a question. You never really remember the beginning of a dream, do you? You always wind up right in the middle of what's going on.
I guess, yeah.
So how did we end up here?
Well, we just came from the,
Think about it, Ariadne. How did you get here? Where are you right now?
We're dreaming?
You're actually in the middle of the workshop right now, sleeping. This is your first lesson in shared dreaming. Stay calm.
This is similar to what people do in the movie Inception. It is a skill that can quickly be learned by anyone. Some of the world's greatest talents, though experts and highly accredited for what they produce, have been inspired by the products of their ability to control their dreams. Scientists like Albert Einstein, Nikola Tesla, and Richard Feynman used lucid dreaming to visualize some of their theories and solve challenging problems. In 1965, Paul McCartney composed the entire melody for his hit acoustic song Yesterday in a Dream. Responsible for smash hits like The Terminator, True Lies, and Titanic, James Cameron has cited that the idea of the movie Avatar came from one of his lucid dreams.
That's why, when Nikola Tesla died, the FBI swooped into his apartment and confiscated all of his secret papers. How do I know this? I have a document from the Department of Defense demanding that the FBI turn them over and names them for what they are, the secret papers of Nikola Tesla. This is not an urban myth. I have that document. It came in this cache of documents I'm talking about. You're conscious and awake. You go to sleep at night. You awaken in a lucid dream where you're flying. And that dream ends up being precognitive. You see something that happens the next day or the next week or the next year. This is a lucid precognitive dream. How many people have had one at some point in their life? Most humans have, although most scientists won't admit to it because they don't want to be discredited. Just like the Aboriginals had dream time as a routine way that they communicated at night in Australia. You know that story. And that's how they would know what to do the next day. They'd meet a friend in the outback and they know where to intersect at some remote area because they did it during their dream. Well, you could do that. If you can do it 10 miles away, you can do it 1 billion light years away. Because you've transcended space-time limitation.
The work we did at SRI involved things like finding a downed Russian airplane in North Africa with code books on it, locating a kidnapped American general in northern Italy, and we even looked in on a Chinese atomic bomb test 3 days before it was scheduled to go off and described correctly that it was going to fail. So we did quite a lot of useful things for the government during our 23-year program. The ability we're talking about is a natural psychic ability that we all have in spite of what you may have heard to the contrary. The ability allows you to quiet your mind and describe and experience what's happening in the future, and you can do that independent of the distance. It's no harder to describe what's happening in Soviet Siberia 6,000 miles away than it is for you to describe the funny object I have in my pocket.
What was stunning was that the Olympic level meditators, these are people who've done up to 62,000 lifetime hours of meditation, their brainwave shows gamma very strong all the time as a lasting trait, just no matter what they're doing. It's not a state effect, it's not during their meditation alone, but it's just their everyday state of mind.
Where we turn in nature, we find 528 hertz. Chlorophyll, which helps plants draw energy from light and gives them their green color, vibrates at 528 hertz. The bees that pollinate many of these plants buzz around at 528 hertz. And the rainbow that completes this picturesque scene has 528 hertz at its heart as well, as it reflects the same greenish-yellow light found in chlorophyll. The air we breathe also contains 528. We know that oxygen, for instance, carries these 528 resonating electrons. But the frequency significance in the natural world isn't limited to this planet. In fact, when recordings of the sun made by NASA scientists are compared to a tuning fork, we find 528 hertz there as well, at the heart of the star which is the center of our solar system. In 2010, there was a disaster at an oil rig owned by BP called the Deepwater Horizon, causing it to leak millions of barrels worth of oil into the Gulf of Mexico. An electromagnetic energy expert, John Hutchinson of Vancouver, along with his wife and research partner Nancy Hutchinson, decided to do something to help. They placed a device that emits frequencies on the beach about 25 feet from the water, and used 528 hertz and other solfeggio frequencies to treat the water. They only did this for 4 hours, but the waters had miraculously cleared by the next morning. In fact, The water had so improved that dolphins, fish, and crabs returned to the area, when just a day before those same waters would have been lethal for marine life. Of course, such an incredible story as John and Nancy Hutchinson's experiment in the Gulf of Mexico is sure to attract skepticism. These skeptics included Dr. Robert Neyman, an analytical analyst with decades of experience. But when he and his company, Analytical Chemical Testing Laboratory, Inc., tested the samples, it removed all doubt. The Hutchinson's method had reduced the amount of oil and grease from 7 parts per million to less than 1 part per million.
How does the acorn become the giant oak tree? Apparently, Aristotle used to hold up an acorn in front of his class and say, "What do I have here?" And what he was asking them, he wanted them to say, "You have an oak tree." He didn't have an oak tree, he had an acorn. Now you could take an acorn to the most erudite scientist in the world, have them dissect it, and they're not going to find an oak tree in it. There's no oak tree in the acorn. Jammed right up against that acorn is energy. It's called earth. There's a pattern plan in the acorn that controls the vibration of the acorn. And because of the vibration, because of the frequency it's operating on, it has no ability to change the frequency. It's going to stay in that vibration. It can only attract the energy in the earth that's in harmony with the acorn. Now there would be energy jammed right up against that acorn that's in harmony with a carrot seed, but not an oak tree. So that energy will stay jammed right up against the acorn, but never become one with the acorn. Meanwhile, there's energy quite a ways away from the acorn that's in harmony with the acorn. If you could see with the naked eye what's happening, like an obedient soldier, that particle of energy will march right to the acorn. And what happens when it gets there? What happens if I put 2 drops of water together? I got 1 drop of water, haven't I? And I got a bigger drop of water than I had before I joined the 2 together. Try and separate that 1 drop into the same 2 little massive molecules. You're never going to do it. Well, when this particle of energy, which can be a long ways away from the acorn, marches towards the acorn, and it will march like an obedient soldier right to the acorn, and when it becomes one with the acorn, what's the acorn do? It does the only thing it can do. It expands. When you add energy to energy, you get more energy. And the acorn expands and it then shoots out the bottom, then shoots out the top, then it starts to attract from the atmosphere as well as from the earth. See, a pattern plan is in the seed. It controls the vibration of the seed. The acorn's in the earth. The oak tree's in the universe. The law of attraction brought them together. What is the law? We said the law is God's modus operandi. It's how everything happens. You know the good that you want? It's already here. You got to get in harmony with it. If you don't get in harmony with it, you're never going to attract it. You will not attract it. But that's how the acorn grows. That's how all other seeds grow, and that's how you grow. You want to know the difference? The acorn has no ability to change the pattern plan. It has no ability to alter the vibratory rate that the acorn's in. You have the ability to alter your vibration at will. I have the ability to alter my vibration at will. When we alter the vibration, we start to express the good we've been desiring, and we start to attract the energy that's in harmony with it. Do you know that there's enough power just in this hand, potential power, to light up this building for probably a week? The blood circulates through this body every 33 seconds, going through hundreds of miles of passageway. Every 33 seconds it carries all the food in, all the garbage out in one sweeping change. There's about 11 million kilowatt hours per pound potential energy locked up in the electrons in the atom of the body. And then we've got the gall to say it's just me. Think of the nervous system. The central nervous system would make the electrical system in a supercomputer look like an absolute toy. I believe that there's infinite power locked up within us. We've got to ask ourselves, what aspect of my life would I most want to improve?
what am I doing that's not serving me very well? You've got to treat you well, and you've got to respect you. You're the only one that can determine where you're going to start. And make up your mind that you're going to start right now. And start talking about the change that you're going to make.